What happens when everything you believe in turns out to be a lie? Because in the Testament's episode 6, Agnes begins to silently fracture under the suffocating control of Gilead, as her once unshakable faith starts to crumble into fear and doubt. Her hesitation in key moments revealing a growing awareness that the world she trusted is built on cruelty and control, and even when she tries to hold herself together, the quiet tremble in her breath, and the tears she refuses to let fall expose a powerful internal rebellion that is only just beginning, while at the same time Dace's reality doesn't crack slowly but shatters instantly, when she uncovers the truth about her identity and her hidden connection to Gilead, triggering an emotional storm of shock, anger, betrayal, and fear as she confronts the possibility that everyone she trusted has been lying to her, and instead of collapsing completely, her breakdown transforms into urgency as she starts demanding answers, pushing forward despite the danger closing in around her. And as the episode cuts between Agnes' silent awakening and Dace's explosive realization, it becomes clear that both girls, though separated by worlds, are being pulled toward the same unavoidable destiny, where Agnes can no longer pretend to believe and Daisy can no longer pretend not to know, setting the stage for a collision with truth, power, and rebellion that will not only change their lives forever, but also threaten the very foundation of Gilead itself. At the training center, the ants reinforce obedience, but this time Agnes doesn't fully engage, her hesitation subtle yet noticeable, suggesting her belief system is beginning to crack under pressure. A private moment reveals Agnes replaying past teachings in her mind, but now questioning them, as doubt replaces the blind faith she once held, marking a critical psychological turning point. Meanwhile, Dace's storyline picks up with a growing sense of unease, as she notices inconsistencies in her guardian's behavior, pushing her to quietly investigate her own past. She uncovers a hidden piece of information, whether a document, message, or memory trigger, that suggests her identity has been deliberately concealed, raising the stakes instantly. Back in Gilead, Aunt Lydia observes Agnes closely, her expression unreadable, but it becomes clear she sees potential in Agnes, not just as a follower, but as someone who could be shaped into something more useful. In a tense interaction, Aunt Lydia offers guidance that feels supportive on the surface, yet carries an underlying manipulation, as if she is steering Agnes toward a path she has already. Agnes is later placed in a situation that tests her loyalty, perhaps witnessing punishment or being asked to participate in something morally conflicting, and her reaction reveals hesitation that would have been unthinkable before. Across the border, Daisy digs deeper and finally confronts someone connected to her past, leading to a partial truth that confirms she is not who she believed she was. The emotional impact hits hard, confusion, anger, fear, all colliding at once, as Daisy realizes her life has been built on a lie. The episode crosscuts between Agnes and Daisy, visually and emotionally linking their journeys, reinforcing the idea that their stories are moving toward the same inevitable collision. Aunt Lydia's role expands further as she meets with key figures in Gilead, subtly influencing decisions while maintaining her composed, loyal FADE, but her true intentions remain just out of reach. In a quiet but powerful scene, Agnes is alone again, this time no longer just questioning, but resisting internally, her silence becoming an act of rebellion. Daisy, now fully aware that she is connected to Gilead, faces a choice, run from the truth or confront it, and she chooses to move forward, despite the danger. The tension builds steadily as both girls take their first real steps away from the lives they've known, setting them on paths that are no longer controllable. In the final act, Aunt Lydia's long game becomes clearer through subtle hints, documents, alliances, or strategic moves that suggest she is preparing for a major shift in power. The episode closes on a gripping parallel, Agnes on the edge of defiance within Gilead, and Daisy stepping toward it from the outside, both unknowingly moving toward the same destiny. The emotional tension is already building as Agnes sits in quiet unease, her silence speaking louder than words as the cracks in her belief system begin to show, and as she moves through the rigid routines of Gilead, every command she follows feels heavier and more suffocating, every lesson echoing in her mind, but no longer bringing comfort, until she's placed in a moment that forces her to confront the harsh reality of the system she once trusted, triggering a deep internal conflict, where fear battles with truth and obedience begins to collapse under the weight of doubt. While at the same time Dace's story accelerates rapidly from suspicion to revelation as she follows a trail of inconsistencies that lead her straight into the truth about her identity, and when that truth finally hits, it doesn't arrive gently but crashes into her world with overwhelming force, sparking an emotional eruption of disbelief, anger, and betrayal as she struggles to process the fact that everything she thought was real may have been a carefully constructed lie. And as Agnes retreats inward, her breakdown expressed through silence, trembling breaths, and restrained tears, Daisy pushes outward, her emotions spilling into action as she demands answers, and refuses to remain powerless, and as the episode continues to cut between these two powerful arcs, the contrast becomes even more striking, with Agnes slowly awakening within a controlled world that punishes doubt, and Daisy being violently awakened outside of it, and yet despite their differences, both are being drawn toward the same truth and the same danger. As Agnes begins to understand the cost of blind faith, and Daisy begins to understand the weight of her true identity, and with every passing moment the tension escalates as both girls move further away from who they once were, and closer to a shared destiny defined by resistance, risk, and revelation, culminating in a powerful emotional shift, where fear starts to transform into courage, confusion sharpens into clarity, and the first real signs of defiance begin to take root, making it clear that this episode is not just about breaking down, but about the beginning of something far more dangerous, the rise of two individuals who are no longer willing to accept the world as it is, and who may ultimately play a key role